In the garden we will sway, hands in soil every day. Hyssop grows the summer green, nature's magic evergreen.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. So if you are a new gardener and are trying different things as you start out, you'll probably start out mostly maybe with vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, squash, beans, corn, that kind of thing. And then you might want to expand into like doing some more herbs or a separate herb garden, things like basil and rosemary, oregano, thyme, those kinds of things. But then as you start to maybe want to expand even more, you might want to try different types of herbs in your garden, and maybe some flowering herbs or herbs that you can use maybe not just for cooking, but maybe for some medicinal purposes or that sort of thing. Now, we are going to cover one of those herbs today, something new that you might be able to try that maybe you haven't grown before, and go over a little bit of the growing tips for it. Along with a little bit of the history of it and what it's used for. Now, with any type of herb, whether it's something that you're cultivating or whether you are foraging in your yard or in different areas for wild herbs, please make sure that you do your own research and know if that, there's always a potential that you might have a allergic reaction or something, might not be as good for you as it is for somebody else. And so, check with your dietitian, your doctor, your herbalist, or do your own research, whatever it is. This is just an informational video, and so take it for what it's worth, but don't base everything that you do simply on one YouTube video. So today we are going to talk about hyssop. Okay, so what is hyssop? This little plant right here is a hyssop. They don't tend to get very tall, maybe a couple of feet tall, maybe a foot or so around. They are a plant that is in the mint family, and there are 4 different varieties of hyssop. You can tell the varieties by the size and the color of their flowers. There is a red flowered one, a pink flowered one, a white flowered one, and a bluish purple flowered one, which I have here. Now, most of the flowering parts are mostly done because we are late in the season, but they are very long blooming. This has been blooming since early June, since we put this in, and there's still little purple petals, bluish purple petals on the little stalk things here, that the butterflies and whatnot will still come visit, and the bees and other pollinators. So it's a perennial, depending on where you live, whether it survives the winter or not. I have planted them both from seed, and then like this plant here I got from a nursery that was like a seedling that was already grown, so you can choose to do both. They are fairly easy to start from seed. You want to start them in the early spring, probably around the same time that you would maybe start like your tomatoes and peppers and that kind of thing. You can start them from seed inside, and then once they sprout, bring them out and harden them off, and then transplant them into whatever part of your garden that you want to put them in. I have found that they do better because the seeds are really tiny, and I'll show you a little clip here of what the seeds look like. They are really tiny, and so it's kind of hard to get them, when you first plant them, to have like one seed per hole kind of thing. You will probably get like a small group of them, but they will do best over time for growth and filling out if you can separate them into single plants. The ones that I planted a couple years ago from seed, I kind of did in small bunches, and they were much smaller. They still put off flowers throughout the whole summer, but they were very kind of like tiny little bunch plants. These that were single seedlings, I have one here and one back over on the other side of the pathway here. Those did much better as in growth and filling out when they had more room to expand. They like full sun. probably about 6 to 8 hours a day. And you know, just like a lot of your other plants, they prefer a well-drained soil. You don't really have to feed them a whole lot or do a whole lot. The soil here is not very good where I planted them. It's mostly clay with some mulch, and I think I added a little bit of extra like potting soil in with them, but other than that, I didn't do a whole lot with them. But they have taken off and bloomed all year long. The cool thing about them, they have like this anise kind of black licorice smell to them, and the bluish purple ones actually have the strongest odor or aroma to them than the other varieties or the other colored flowers that I mentioned. And I think the bluish purple one is probably the most common one that you will see, but you can get the other varieties as well. Now, historically, they, you know, originated in like Southern Europe and in Asia. They have been naturalized in the United States. So, you know, they will grow in the US fine, but in many other countries as well. They are cold tolerant, but, you know, it depends on how cold it gets, but they will probably be a little bit more cold tolerant than some of your other herbs that you might grow in your garden. For example, like rosemary that prefers, you know, more hot temperatures. These go back a long way. Hyssop is mentioned in the Bible a lot. They are mentioned in Exodus.
Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and on both sides of the doorframe. None of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. Exodus 12:22.
They are mentioned in the book of Psalms.
Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Psalm 51:7.
And then they are also mentioned in the New Testament as well, during the crucifixion.
A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. John 19:29-30.
So what all are they used for? Over the centuries and millennia, they have been used as kind of a cleansing type of plant, such as what's mentioned in the Bible, but they are also used for different medicinal purposes, such as you can make a tea out of them and combine it with honey, because they're kind of bitter, and so you would want to combine some sort of sweetener, and normally what is combined with them is honey, to make like a tea that is good for respiratory issues, lung issues. Sometimes they have been used, the leaves are used as a poultice to put on bruises. And then also, you know, they've been used in other types of things, like in the medieval times, they were used to ward off the evil eye, or to keep witches away. Now in your garden, they will make a beautiful border, you know, with some of your other flowering plants. Like I said, they've got like the little purple stalks on them, and flowering stalks on them that bees love. What I've found is that carpenter bees, honeybees, butterflies, different types of moths and other pollinators, and even sometimes hummingbirds really enjoy these plants. They are also a good repellent against things like deer, rabbits, and mosquitoes. So deer and rabbits don't care for them because they are one of the herbaceous plants or herbs that have kind of a more strong oil in the leaves and in the plant that those types of animals don't care for. And so if you wanted to plant a bunch of these as a border on your garden, it might help deter things like deer and rabbits. Mosquitoes don't particularly care for them, kind of like citronella and patchouli and some of those other plants that you can grow as well. So some of those ones that are heavier in the oils kind of help keep away some of those pests or animals that might want to munch on some of your other garden plants. Now, you can also make essential oils out of these. However, you have to be careful with that because it is a strong essential oil and can be somewhat detrimental to people with high blood pressure because of some of the properties that are in it. But that is from the essential oil part because it's so much more concentrated. If you are using it like as a tea, then it's much, like drying the leaves and that kind of thing. You don't get those heavy concentrations of the oils. It has also been used to smoke with other herbal smoking blends for help with the lungs. And now I know that seems weird to say that you're going to smoke something to help your lungs, but there are different types of herbs that people use in various blends that when smoked can be beneficial from a respiratory aspect. And one of those is hyssop. Other things might be things like mugwort or I think mullein, a couple other things that they might use as a smoking herb blend. So hyssop might be something that you want to consider to put in your herb garden. Whether you just want to use it for the pretty flowers that come throughout the year, and I'm sorry I don't have the best example of pretty flowers here because we are, in past mid-September, so a lot of the little purple buds are gone, but they do have these pretty purple, bluish purple stalks on them, this variety does, that will bloom throughout the year that your local pollinators will love. So you can use it for that, or you can harvest leaves and things like that to, use in herbal remedies or other things that you want to do, just make a tea out of. You can maybe blend it with some other things. Also, some people will eat some of the leaves raw, like they'll add some bits of it onto salads and that kind of thing. You can eat it raw, but it does have much more of a bitter flavor. So, you're going to want to combine it with something else that can kind of cut the bitterness in it. So, hyssop. It's a fantastic herb to grow in your garden. It's pretty, it has multiple uses, and it's not that hard to grow. If you are a beginning gardener that's looking to expand your garden into adding flowering herbs, medicinal herbs and that kind of thing, take a look into hyssop, and I think that you will enjoy it. But if you have grown hyssop and have, or maybe some of the other varieties that have the other colored flowers, put in the comments below. Let me know how it worked for you and what you used it for, or any other information that you want to put below. All the comments are, I enjoy all the comments and communicating with you all. So I appreciate that you're here hanging out with me again today, and we will see you again soon. But I hope whatever's going on in your neck of the woods is working out fantastic for you, and have a great day. Namaste.
Sunshine makes the colors bright, sprout